And whenever I talk to pastors, I like to pound theistic evolution into the ground, so it never gets resurrected. So let's talk about what has happened. A few hundred years ago, everybody believed there was a flood, according to the Bible. But then in 1795, James Hutton, he wrote a book, Theory of the Earth, and he introduced uniformitarianism. That's present processes are the only way you can explain past events. The present is the key to the past. That's what they say. And so it caused people to doubt the thousands of years. And then in 1814, Thomas Chalmers, he came up with the gap theory, and that squeezed millions of years into the Bible. And then in 1830, Charles Lyell, he wrote Principles of Geology, and that he came up with the geologic column. Now this is before radiometric dating, this is before all of that. He just looked at those layers and said, they're really old, and people believed them. And so then he said that it takes millions of years for those layers, and so then people began to doubt the flood. And then in 1859, Charles Darwin came along with The Origin of Species, and he had people doubt the God of creation. God the Creator, because he had natural selection. That's how they changed. And then in 1909, Cyrus Scofield came up with the Reference Bible, and he has the gap theory in there. And this Reference Bible was used. It was the first Bible with study notes in it. And then they started to use this or one of the first at least. And it was they began to use this at seminaries. And a lot of the seminaries were using the Scofield Reference Bible, and he had the gap theory, which is also called the ruin reconstruction theory. Okay, and this is, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, gap, for millions of years. Okay, because they're trying to squeeze the geologic column in there, and you can't do it after Adam, because there's a genealogy in Luke 3 from Adam to Jesus, or Jesus to Adam. And it's got all the years how they lived and the chronology, and it doesn't work. So they have to squeeze it in there before Adam, and this is where they squeeze it. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and then there's a gap of millions or even billions of years, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. But it says the first creative act refers to the dateless past and gives scope for all the geologic ages. So that's what they were all being taught. And it says, earth made waste and empty by judgment before God's second creative act. It's like the second creative act? Again, this is the ruin reconstruction theory. They said there was in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and then there was this world that Satan and his demons were at that got flooded, and God judged it, and then he made another earth. And so why would they think that? It's in Genesis 1:28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. So they have to fill up the earth again with people. That means there was people there before. But that's based on our modern translation of the word. Replenish today means to fill up or build up again. So fill it up again, replenish. That's what it means now, but it never used to mean that. In 1828, it just meant to fill. That's it. To fill. So if they got the definition of the word right, they won't need that pre-Adamic race that got judged before.